Well, Patty, camping season is fully underway here in the north part of Indiana. And I thought today we might share some thoughts on when is the best time to actually go camping. And we'll do that in this episode of Travels with Delaney.
The podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's Patrick.
I'm Patty.
And if you are not familiar with our podcast, maybe you stopped by for the first time, we are two 50-somethings that are doing a complete life change.
Yep.
We sold our house, moved into our RV. Patty's finishing up her last few days in her teaching job.
5.
I'm done with mine. And now I run a campground for 7 months out of the year.
Yep.
And then we're headed to Texas this winter.
Yeah.
So, and for those of you that already were listening, you knew that. So Patty, we are definitely, even though the other day I made the comment, we are almost a quarter of the way done with our camping season.
Isn't that nuts?
And somebody actually asked me, like, where did you come up with the camping season's a quarter of the way over? Well, the way I look at it, at least we're here at Happy Acres, because we're a seasonal park.
Right.
We're open from, mid-April to the end of October. So I look at it as from opening to Memorial Day is the first quarter.
Right.
Memorial to 4th of July is second quarter. And then 4th of July to Labor Day is third quarter. And then from Labor Day to the end, that's the fourth quarter of the camping season. I have literally broken it down into a basketball game.
I think so.
So yeah. So anyway, but I thought, for a lot of people, they're just getting going with the camping season.
Yes.
And I've seen some things over our 20 years of RVing in terms of when's the best time to go camping and that type of thing. But I've also seen it now from a management perspective, running a campground. And so I thought today it might be fun to, talk about that. It might be useful for some of our listeners. And this may be things that they already know, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And
Certainly.
But before we do that, we have to do another exciting round of this or that.
Okay.
You ready? It's been a while, Patty.
It's been a while,
We took a few weeks off from the old podcast, and so I hope you're ready for this one.
All right, we'll see.
All right. So, Patty, you
Yes.
go to a restaurant and you order some water.
Yes.
They offer you either a slice of lemon or a slice of lime. Which
Ooh.
one would you prefer in your tap water?
Ooh, I like them both. Can I have both?
No, it's this or that, not this, that, or both.
Lemon.
Lemon. You're going with the lemon.
I'll go with lemon.
See, I kind of like the lime.
I like them both.
And
but,
never once have I ever been offered lime with my tap
I'm
water.
thinking here, when have we gotten
We haven't, but I just thought, if you had to choose one of the citrus fruits of the lemon or lime type, didn't offer you orange because it's not this, that, or the other. We could change this up. We've had 100 and some episodes. Maybe we do need to change this segment up. I don't know.
But yeah, I would go with lemon.
Okay.
I enjoy the lemon.
I like the lime. I got to be honest. I wish somebody would offer me lime with my tap
I like
water.
the lime and the coconut.
I do like a gin and tonic with a twist of lime.
Yes, you do.
So.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that was fun. Now it's over.
F-U-N.
Ruined my this or that. But. All right, let's talk about booking campsites. When are good times to camp?
Sure.
And ultimately understand this is just our thoughts, our opinions, and if you totally disagree with us, that's okay. That's the beauty of this world that we live in. Everybody can have an opinion.
Sure.
Well, at least here in the United States. Maybe not in other countries, but here in the United States, everybody's allowed an opinion.
Yep.
So one of the things that I see, and we've seen this over the years, again, we've been doing this now for 20 years, is that there are certain times of the camping season that are busier. And there are other times, and so I think a lot of it depends on what you are looking for.
Sure.
But if you prefer to go camping where there's less crowds, less campers, one of the trends we have always known was weekends tend to always be much busier in campgrounds than weekdays.
The weekdays are better.
Right.
You want more mellow time, I guess.
Right. And I think a lot of that is weekends are when a lot of families can go camping. Because if mom and dad are working Monday through Friday, they can't go camping Monday through Friday.
Sure. Right.
And so Fridays and Saturdays become really popular. And we see the same thing here as a booking pattern.
Mm-hmm.
As I look at our booking grid over the next 3 months, Fridays and Saturdays are filling up very rapidly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Weekdays, which are really Sunday through Thursday nights,
Mm-hmm.
are always weak. So if you would prefer to be in an RV park like Happy Acres here in Angola,
Right.
Indiana, when there's fewer campers, then if you're able to camp on a Sunday through a Thursday night, you're probably going to get the park, I don't want to say to yourself.
No, but it's going to be like less busy
It's
with people.
it's going to be less busy, and so that's one of those things where, but again, that's not an option for a lot of people,
Not a lot of
and it
people can
wasn't
do
for
that.
us,
No, it
except in
wasn't.
the summer when we
We
weren't
were
teaching.
weekenders, and then we became seasonal. So
Yeah.
in the summer, because we're teachers, so we could have that time, and then we'd have weeks and weekends in the summer.
The other thing is rates tend to be less expensive on those Sunday
Weekdays,
through Thursday
yeah,
nights
versus the weekends.
versus the weekend.
Which makes sense because you have more people wanting to camp on the weekend.
Right. And so, and we honestly, I think we've done an episode on this, I think, and we could probably do another one. I saw somebody on TikTok who was saying that camping fees are getting out of hand at these campgrounds. And I think we did a whole episode where we talked about, yeah. But, if you are rate conscious, then that might be, if you are like us,
able to do it,
like maybe you're retired or semi-retired and you can get away during the week, that would be one way to save some money.
Sure.
And just not have so many people wanting to go up and use the pool,
right,
or whatever amenities the park has.
Absolutely.
I would also say that maybe two of the slower times for camping are times when a lot of people think you can't go camping.
Right.
And it's what I call the fringe camping season here in the north.
Sure.
That's everything prior to Memorial Day and everything after Labor Day.
Right. Absolutely.
I never have understood people who start winterizing their camper as soon as Labor Day's over.
No, because sometimes it's the best weather.
Oh, I know. and same way, prior to Memorial Day,
get some really pretty days, and
And so, I guess the point I was making,
yeah,
if there was there a point? Yeah, there was a point.
Get to the point.
Was those fringe camping seasons tend to be less costly.
Right.
Then once you hit Memorial Day, from Memorial Day to Labor Day,
that's prime time.
That is prime time in a lot of areas.
Right, especially up here in the Northeast.
In the north, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to probably pay more during those months than you would if you were able to go camping prior or after.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I will say here at Happy Acres this spring, we have been fairly busy on the weekends.
Yeah, it's been busy.
We've only had a couple what I would call slow weekends.
Mm-hmm.
The first weekend, which you would anticipate April 18th to be slow, and then Mother's Day weekend,
we figured mothers don't camp.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to think moms don't go camping because
moms don't want to camp on Mother's Day.
Historically, and when I say historically, I mean the 3 years that Angie and Kevin have owned the park, that has been a slow weekend.
Well, usually around here in Indiana, it can be a not knowing what kind of weather it's going to be. It could either be good or it could be really nasty. So,
and that could be a reason people don't book.
Yeah, because usually in that time of year it's kind of cold and rainy, but we got very lucky this year, and that day was gorgeous. That weekend was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gorgeous weekend.
Mid-70s, perfect.
And I think the fall, which
is awesome.
And I'll be honest, and I said the fringe before and after the two bookend holidays that I call them. But honestly, we get pretty busy here in the fall on the weekends because we have, like a lot of campgrounds, we run things like Fall Fest and Halloween weekends and things like yeah. I wish we could do some pumpkin chunking.
I want to do pumpkin chunking.
But that's something to consider is, can you extend your camping season if you want less crowds and lower rates?
Well, if you even want to go out there, we've done winter camping before.
We have. And a lot of people don't do that because they don't want to have to either, de-winterize. Now, if we were doing a whole episode on winter camping, which we may come fall, we could talk about ways that you don't even have to de-winterize your
Mm-hmm.
camper to use it.
Absolutely,
And
sure.
I feel like I'm even more prepared for that this year after our February trip
Yep.
because I found a product that could replace using the toilet. But anyway, I digress.
You
I
digress.
digress. So, um,
Squirrel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I think then the elephant in the room is the big three: Memorial Day weekend,
Yep.
4th of July weekend, or whenever it falls, and Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That those are going to be the probably the most crowded an RV park is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the rates are going to be the highest you're probably going
Sure.
to see
Absolutely.
if you're a seasonal park like us.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of an exception, which is Disney World.
Right.
Fort Wilderness, and we'll talk about that here in a second separately. If you're going to resorts and how you might be able to save some money.
Sure.
But for, up here in the north with our seasonal parks, those are going to be the busiest. And we used to avoid camping on those 3 weekends because we got to a point where we're like, you just felt like the parks were so crowded.
Yeah, and loud and yeah.
And I can tell you because I was just looking today. Now, by the time this podcast airs, Memorial Day weekend will be coming to a close.
Sure.
But I can tell you that today I did some online research. Pokagon State Park had 1 site left for this weekend, Memorial Day
Okay.
weekend. The KOA showed nothing available.
Okay.
We are completely full, except I think I have 2 cabins left.
Okay.
But RV sites, we are completely sold out.
Sold out.
And so that gives you an idea. The only park in the area that had availability was the Jellystone.
Right.
And according to their reservation system, they had, I think it was like 151 sites available.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on at
What
the
in
Jellystone.
the world? Really?
Yeah,
Is that the whole park?
yeah. Well, I will tell you, I think it's a rate issue
Oh.
because I was like, what the heck? And you'll know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Nobody out there, well, most of you will not know what I'm talking about, but you remember the island at Jellystone.
Right,
There's like an island, like literally
Right.
you go across a bridge,
Mm-hmm.
a little bridge,
It's
like
just a little island, but a little,
yeah.
little like waterway.
So none of those sites are full hookup.
Right. They're not.
Okay. A site out on the island, so it was a back end.
You'd have to get.
So you weren't
pumped
even
out.
on the water.
No, you
because it was
weren't.
center.
Right.
$135 a night plus tax.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I think that might be why they have so many sites is their rates
Probably.
are just
Crazy town.
crazy town.
Cray.
Now our rates, I will tell you, I think well we're full. I think the last person that booked because was like over $100 a night, but that was for a full hookup site.
Sure. Right.
So anyway, if you don't want crazy town, because it's going to be crazy town around here.
It'll be
Although
busy.
our crazy town's pretty
A
wild.
little different,
Yeah.
yeah, than a lot of places.
Yeah.
but
And the pool won't be an issue this
No.
weekend because the highs are like mid-60s.
It's too cold. Yeah.
So,
Not
but
like Labor Day. Labor Day usually it's
right,
warm.
yeah, or we get the 4th of July,
should
we'll
be
be the same
nice.
way. We'll be sold out,
Yep.
and the pool will be absolutely packed most likely.
Yep.
Um,
Lots of fun.
yeah, but we're a small park, so even when we're sold out, it's not terrible.
It's not like thousands
No.
of people. Yeah.
No.
It's not crazy. That crazy.
So if and this is the other thing, if you want to camp on the big 3,
Mhm.
you need to book those in
Early.
advance.
Yep.
I bet you we have turned away, and I'm not exaggerating. I would say we've probably turned away close to 10 to 15 people this week calling up looking for sites for this weekend.
Right.
The big 3 are not times where you probably want to wait till the last minute.
No.
Unless you want to go to the Jellystone, apparently.
Right.
So,
Or be in your backyard
or be in your backyard, yeah.
with your tent.
So I just thought, that was something that, again, I think it's pretty much common sense, but sometimes we
You would
need to
think,
be
yeah.
reminded that, hey, if I could go during the week, and like I said, for a lot of people, that's just not an option.
Right. You
But it's
can't.
something to look forward to when you get retired or semi-retired.
Sure.
And so we have friends, that will do that are
Oh
retired,
yeah.
and they like to go out camping during the week when nobody else is around. It's just a lot quieter, and you have all the amenities pretty
more
much
access. Yeah.
to yourself.
Yeah.
But for a lot of us, we're
do
working Monday
that.
through Friday, so Yeah, you've got to hit those weekends, so
Mhm.
it's going to cost you more. Now, I did talk about Fort Wilderness and how,
Yeah.
like, so, and I think this would apply to year-round resorts.
Mhm.
That if you're in the South, and I don't know a lot about the South as far as camping,
No.
other than I know I'm going to use Florida because we know
Sure.
Florida, and I think Texas is the same way.
Right.
In the summer, it's hot, like you're on the sun.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that in those parts of the country where it's really hot in the summer, then winters we know in Florida
Are going
are
to be
more
busier.
are busier.
Mhm.
So if you want to go to Disney World, for instance, and camp affordably,
Right. Yeah,
I
that's
don't
loosely
want to
written.
say cheap because
Nothing's cheap at
even
Disney.
when the rates are low at Disney at Fort Wilderness, they're still high,
Yeah,
if
it's
that
not
makes
cheap.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, like $135 might be
Right.
an affordable site at Disney, and that's in the off. That's when probably
It's
nobody else.
considered off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like a good example is Christmas
Mhm.
at Disney.
Is
I mean,
high peak.
you're going to pay $250 to $300 a night to camp,
Right. 'Cause that
and
is
the
prime
campground's going to be
camping.
absolutely packed.
Packed.
And if you're going to the parks, they're going to be Nightmare on Main Street.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just understand that you may need to, as you're thinking about where you're traveling to, you may need to adjust what we're
Mm.
talking about because, again, if I wanted to go when it was slow at Disney and camp and when the rates were lower,
I'd have to go like in January, February.
maybe, yeah,
And
maybe,
then maybe I go in,
you know,
thinking when school
you don't
starts
want
back
to,
up,
yeah, you don't want to go.
like September.
Spring break, Easter
Right.
holiday, that's high then, but you don't want to go at Thanksgiving, you don't want to go at Christmas because those are going to be the most expensive times. But if you can adjust your travel, a good example is, the week before Thanksgiving at
Yep.
Fort Wilderness is still considered off season.
Right.
And so the crowds won't be as bad. The campsites are going to be a lot more affordable.
Yep.
If you let's say you were going, but let's get rid of Disney for a second. Let's say you wanted to go to Myrtle Beach.
Mhm.
If you're going to go in June, July, and August, those are going to be crowded and expensive times
Yep.
to go. But if you could go in maybe, I don't know, May.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, we know April and March. We've been to Myrtle Beach at
That's
spring break.
busy.
It's inexpensive and not busy.
Right. Usually it's not. Yeah, 'cause it's cooler.
Well, because it's that transition. The snowbirds are heading home,
Yes.
and everybody else is still in
You're right.
school.
Mhm.
And so, you may say, yeah, but I'm not going to be able to lay out on the beach. No,
No,
but you can take some really nice walks on the beach with
and
your
get some
jacket.
naps. Get some relaxation.
Yeah. You walk down to,
Sure can.
remember, what was it? There was some hotel, I don't know if it was
Had
the
a
Marriott
nice little
pool
outdoor
bar, and we
sitting
walked
area.
down the
Yeah.
beach and went to the pool bar and had lunch and
Yeah.
cocktails.
Sure.
So, when you're thinking about booking, just consider when might be slower times, lower rates, and if your work schedule allows, or your
Right.
personal schedule allows, that might make sense for people.
Sure.
So,
Definitely.
and the other thing is you can always call the campground and ask, like, do you have some slower, even if you can only do weekends, do you have some slower weekends?
Mhm.
Because I think most of us are going to have at some point some slower weekends,
Mhm.
and usually if they're slower weekends, our rates are lower, might even run specials,
Right.
and so it never hurts to ask
Mhm.
if you have some flexibility in when you can go camping.
Mhm. Definitely.
So
Sounds like a win-win to me.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just something that I've been watching the booking trends here at Happy Acres, and and it's just like and I think the biggest challenge probably for most RV park owners is how do you get people out camping Sunday through Thursday,
Mhm.
and we typically do that. One is by offering better rates,
Right.
but
Sure.
again, for so many people, that's just not an option.
Yeah, it's just not in their work
Yeah.
schedule. So, yeah.
Anyway, well, we've got a busy
Yeah,
weekend. By the
we
time this
do.
airs, we'll probably be pooped from because we are, like I said, we are.
I'm already tired.
Yeah, it's Thursday before the weekend. We're already tired, and we're going
Already
into.
tired.
I think we have 30 check-ins tomorrow, which I was talking to Amy about this up in the store. That like 30 is a big number for us.
It's big.
Can you imagine like at Disney, like, we got like 600 check-ins today or
Yeah.
whatever, like, because they have
Can't
like
imagine.
800 sites.
Can you imagine that?
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine
No.
that. So.
But they have multiple people checking people in, and yeah, but still.
Yeah,
That's
but still, I
crazy.
mean, it's all proportional. I mean,
That's cray-cray.
yeah.
Double cray.
We're going to get through it tomorrow. Amy and I'll get
be
everybody
good.
to their sites,
It'll be fine.
and then the great thing about this park is once people are into their sites, everybody just has a good time, does their thing, and
Yep. Pretty easy going.
if
here.
we can get some halfway decent weather
that would be
this
nice.
weekend, that would be nice because we have been in like a monsoon season for the last 3 days.
It's ready to build the ark.
Yeah, and somehow tomorrow we've got to try to get this entire park mowed.
I don't know
I hope-
how you're going to do that.
Oh, if it dries out overnight, which I'm not sure it will,
I'm
but
not sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we could not mow today because it was way too wet.
Too soggy.
Speaking of wet, this is a good time to thank our friend Jim Kuzman, who's not only I don't know Jim.
Sorry, Jim.
I don't know. There was no smooth transition, but we always want to thank our friend
you,
and
Jim.
producer who helps put
Putting
this
up with
podcast.
Patrick.
That's right. And thank you to all of you for being patient while we took a little hiatus. Hopefully we'll get back on a weekly schedule here. And I got some episodes already planned coming up. But anyway,
sounds good.
And thank you to everyone. And until next time, we will see you
on down the road.
Bye.
Travels with Delaney. We'll see you on down the road.